So we'll get started back to the vehicle. So I just switched to wireframe view right here. Sometimes I do that for moving lights around and stuff. It just makes it a bit quicker to work with, as you don't have to wait for the volume to load into your viewport or whatever each frame. So you just get the bounding box for your volume containers, so it could be a bit quicker. So yeah, this is where we left off last time. There's some issues with the smoke. Just compared to some of the other references I was looking at, like this looked to be a bit too tendrily and too thin and stuff like that. So I did, yeah, I was tweaking it a little bit off stream, grinding off stream a little bit, and I did go in and I was tweaking some things with the smoke to make it a little bit more dense and kind of flatten it out a bit. And then I was playing around with the lighting and stuff like that as well. Yeah, the wind might help. That's a good way to add more detail into things, like just having extra forces. There is a bit of wind right now, like there's a constant directional wind. If you look at everything, there's like a screen from screen right to screen left direction applied. So if I go into my smoke DOP network, that's the particle source. The smoke sim, on the smoke object, using this wind tunnel direction, that's what's defining this directional left to right, screen left to right movement of everything. So it's just a constant direction like that from the wind tunnel direction. But you could also do it with turbulence. Instead of applying turbulence inside of the density field, you can apply it only outside of the density field. And then you kind of have like an ambient wind that's just at a super large scale or something like that. But yeah, that with doing some ambient stuff could be pretty cool. It looks like they do have it in some of these. It's kind of hard to tell. Like this one here, you can pretty easily see that there's that same, just a constant direction a little bit going that way. So yeah, that's kind of happening. And then I was just trying to get a little bit closer in terms of the thickness of the smoke. Another thing that I did, if you look between the two previous version and current version, I added a HDRI that only affects the, hold on here, getting my windows mixed up. Yeah, so I added an HDRI that's only driving or only lighting the car. So just going back up here to the object level, that light dome under objects here, light enabled for just the vehicle. The video player is RV. It will buffer or cache your frames to your memory or to RAM. It's owned by Autodesk. If you have like a Shotgun or Autodesk subscription, you might have a license for it that you don't know about it. Yeah, Mr. Viewer, that's under my, if you do ! resources in the chat, there's a link to Mr. Viewer on my website with the resources section. The stream lags when you start simming. Might be a GPU issue because the GPU is doing the web player. But you could always restart or refresh Twitch, and that should catch you up to real time if you're experiencing like a pretty big delay in the chat. Mr. View is better than DJ View. Yeah, I still need to transition myself to Mr. Viewer, but I'm getting there one day. The biggest problem with me with RV is that I know all the hotkeys really well, so I don't want to switch to a new player and have to relearn the hotkeys, but we'll do it one day. So yeah, I added the ambient light to get better looking reflections for the vehicle. And I was also just ended up turning off these other lights here. I just wanted to make more of a focal point where the vehicle is itself, just to make things less distracting. And I still need to work on the asphalt shader with wet and dry and just like the scale of the texture and everything. So that's probably going to be what I'm going to jump into first, and then taking another look back at just the overall lighting. There's also a lot of noise you can see in the tail lights and the smoke. So because we have a geometry light, I just made these donuts. I guess they're even sticking out a little bit at some places. But because we have these geometry lights, and then they're already going through the tinted glass or the refraction to light this, that's kind of what produces all of this noise. So geometry light will produce a lot of noise, and then going through a transparent surface makes it a lot more expensive as well to render those lights. So another thing that's on my list to do is to unlink these so that this light isn't illuminating the smoke, and then I'm just going to put placeholders like point lights nearby to link it to light the smoke, and then that will optimize the rendering speed quite a bit, or we'll just clean up the noise and look a lot better. But yeah, that's where we're at. Could just open up the render view. I don't know why it's been going into the bucket by default. I have to just refresh it or whatever to get it. So yeah, just a refresher here on the HDRI that I added for the reflections. So if we turn that off, you can see we're back to like a somewhat more boring looking, mundane lighting. We turn it on, you just get a little bit more fancy looking, better shaping of the car and everything like that. So it's basically based off of this idea here with this Behance breakdown. Put this in the chat. I think I linked it before, but if you want to look at it again. So you can see the first pass is kind of looking like mine was looking. Just very flat and boring. So then to add more, where did it go? I lost it. Here it is. So to add more shaping, show off the car's curves, the features and stuff a little bit more, layering more lights. You could see that these are only, they're doing something in comp or post to only have them affecting the vehicle. So it's the same idea over here. Turn that on. You would see it in the reflections because this reflects the vehicle, but because it's the light is only affecting or illuminating the car itself. So that's, once you really need to dial stuff in, that's a good way to work. And might take a quick look here. Like you can do gamma adjustments to your lights with Redshift, which is pretty nice. For whatever reason, it's not really normalized. Like increasing the gamma kind of increases the contrast, but it also makes the light a lot more bright, like overly bright or overly intense. So if you really increase the gamma quite high, you can kind of extract just the highlights or the light sources. So I could see here making the intensity 0.01 and then increasing the gamma. I'm just pulling out the like grid light or whatever area light they have in that HDRI. If you go the other way, flatten it, your entire light source will get a lot darker and you'll kind of just have to boost it to compensate. But now I'm just pulling out like the majority of the HDRI. Like it's just flattening out the light source, if that makes sense. So I was thinking like something around 1.1. Again, probably just have to decrease this to compensate. Was a good balance, just because this is like a night scene. You're breaking reality a little bit by going in and unlinking these lights, but you just want something that catches your eye more or looks a little bit better. And then also just using this rotate, swiveling your HDRI light around, you just find something that looks pretty good for one frame, or you kind of have to do the animation with it spinning around and see how it looks. But yeah, and then the saturation as well. If your light has colors in it, you might want to get more hints. Like this has some magenta or purple or something like that in it. I might actually go maybe down to 0.9. Try to get a little bit more. Just to flatten that out a little bit. And then I had been turning on and off the volumetric scattering. So it just kind of depends, but it does definitely muddy up. Like with these two renders, I had turned it on and off. So it does kind of muddy things up a little bit. Try to catch the reflection on the shoulder of the car. You mean this area right here you're referring to, the shoulder? So yeah, it just depends here. I think I want to add a little bit of this. Okay, yeah, so I add a little bit here. Yeah, it seems like when I was looking at a lot of the car photography, they were trying to get an area light or grid light to show off the curves or whatever. But yeah, I think just pulling back somewhat on the light scattering, maybe the attenuation as well. So just to get some subtle ambient lighting in, but not really. You didn't paint this. I haven't painted anything. I hate painting. The real compositors are all about painting. A pillar. This is the A pillar right here, I believe. But yeah, if I was doing a still, you could paint a lot of it and get yourself a lot further. But for animation, like you can paint and reproject in comp. Like if I was to paint here on the ground, I could do that, but it will start to introduce issues with reflections and stuff like that. So that's why I'm not a big fan of painting. And then I'm also just not, I try to do as much as I can in render, essentially. When people are RGB lighting for smoke, is it? Yeah, we'll get stuck, like, it just doesn't look as real, but sometimes I don't know, sometimes you'll want to do it. So yeah, this smoke, if you do RGB lighting, people, I don't know, sometimes they'll try to do like a normal pass in the RGB lights. So green might be Y or top down, red might be X. And then in comp, you can kind of relight or redefine like the directional lighting that way. So that's why people do it sometimes, or just to provide additional options in tweaking. With Redshift, I think you can do it under AOV. If I start to add AOVs on your lights, if you do AOV light groups, then you can do like either unique AOV per light by just making this group unique per light, or you could define like subsets or groups of light that way and then split them out into different AOVs. So the colors is like an old school trick, or it's just convenience if renderers don't support AOVs like that. But either way, people just want to have that ability to color correct or adjust things in post. So that's why they do it. Either RGB or AOVs, it's the same idea. So yeah, and then the headlights, I've been playing around with those as well. Just looking at references, like they never seem to be lighting up fog that much. Or even the road in front of them. Like, I don't know, they just never seem to be that intense. That's kind of how I ended up here. I might... Learning so much from watching these. Thank you. Yeah, I'm happy. This is the first one that I've done that's more like general workflows and stuff like that. But overall, I'm just trying to get as much knowledge, programming or Vex, or just there's just the entire VFX workflow out there as possible. Might be doing some more traditional style, like topics, kind of like a semester, like a class or something like that in the future, but I still haven't figured that out yet. Just still experimenting with the format and seeing what works out. So I'm going in here and changing my gamma. I'm gonna change maybe the intensity as well. This is just feeling a little bit too hot, too intense for this environment. Just like it's feeling a bit too fake or too added on top. But yeah, I think we can go back. I'm gonna add yeah, the smoke shading with Redshift is really a difficult thing to balance the way that they've set it up. Mine's pretty flat right here as well. Like, that's one of the things I was going back and forth with these two versions. So to get shape, you need shadows, but then to add, like once you, when you have them in there too hard, it just looks like, I don't know, depends on your lighting and everything like that. And then my reference as well, like this is pretty flat. There isn't a ton of shadows in it. So it's like when you because the shadowing is decoupled from the opacity. Yeah, I think it's just with Redshift, it's a pain to tweak things because everything's unlinked. Like the scattering and the absorption is like, that's just simpler sliders with Mantra and other renderers. So it's just a lot harder to balance with Redshift. But yeah, because like basically if you have too much shadows but you don't have enough opacity, this stuff will tend to look fake. So that's that's kind of how I settled on this. look for the smoke. You have to pay attention to your opacity. You don't want it to be see-through, but then a lot of shadows. When you like fake that, push that too much, it just tends to look a bit fake. So I might really like the look after the initial spin. Yeah, it's getting there. It's definitely something. So the things that are happening, I think right now are pretty cool. I just need to dial stuff in is my overall plan. The pull in, the arrival is kind of weird. So I might cut it and just start the shot right here. I'm gonna stop my redshift. I think I'm doing too many things right now with the OBS, redshift, and playing a movie. But yeah, I think it's everything from here onward in terms of performance is feeling pretty good. I think it's cool how he like obfuscates himself and disappears almost into the smoke. So I just my plan is to improve lighting, shaders, and maybe take one more stab at the smoke simulation to kind of final this or get it put it to rest for a little bit. But yeah, I think it's pretty cool how the smoke comes towards camera, you see the detail, and then he kind of still pushes it around. Like you can still tell a little bit what's going on, but he's doing that. Yeah, so that's the initial smoke mushroom. That's my plan, is like to add more turbulence and stuff like that happening at this phase, and then less of it later on. Because right now that's another issue, is just that like that little stuff still splitting up at that stage doesn't really happen. So like looking at this reference, all of the initial, especially just looking in like this area right here, all of the like initial breakup is defined really quickly, very close to the tire, and then from there on outward, these just kind of expand or move around and drift, but there isn't a ton of like big swirling and stuff like that happening. So yeah, that's on the plan, the agenda. Are you gonna do it via keyframing? Some masking. For the actual noise and turbulence and stuff, I haven't figured it out too much, but my initial plan is I'm just planning to do more lighting and stuff today, but so I have these source particles that are driving the smoke. This is like emitting or sourcing the smoke. So if you just add another particle source like around the stuff, like little swarms of bees or something like that, that's generally a good way to like add or inject localized turbulence or detail and stuff like that just into a specific area. So that would be my first approach or plan of attack to tweak that kind of stuff. So yeah, I think doing it that way and worrying less about adding more like micro solvers and shaping tools and stuff is generally a better way to work. We'll see what happens though. But yeah, that's my plan for that stuff. I'll just leave the display flag here. The render flag is still on the smoke. So yeah, one thing I'm gonna do before I dive into the shaders and stuff is I think I'm gonna add another light source, like another ambient light. So right now I just have this headlight or the spotlight just hitting right here. So it's directing your eye and providing like the focal point and doing a good job in that sense. But I think having an ambient light from screen left or screen right might help give things like a bit more shape and interest. And then even let me get my pure ref. Even that initial like V-Ray, the V-Ray thing kind of had a little bit of that going on, where there's like the warm ambient lighting as well. So I think just pulling that kind of idea from there might be helpful. All right, got 80 different movie players and image viewers open. We'll keep pushing. So this is frame 170. Maybe I'll try it with frame something a little bit earlier. Sometimes just to move the viewport, like I'll just open up a text port or Python panel like that, and then I could put a floating window of reference or web browser, whatever I want, the render view on top of it. So I think oh man, the OBS is dropping frames. All right, gonna fix that real quick. Just have to turn off the other GPU. All right. Okay, we're back. So get the panel back open and the render view. And then we're just going to add the other kind of warmer light source. You should be fully functional now. No frames being dropped. 60 FPS. So I already had these other lights that I had turned off from earlier. Might turn this one back on. This one I was originally adding to kind of think about having like a cooler light source, like a convenience store or something like that. I'm just gonna move that to warmer temperature. So at the bottom here they have the T slider, so that stands for temperature. So with lights, they generally go from warm to cool, and they produce a specific color tint. So generally, if you're just reproducing like physical lights or natural light sources like the sun, just using this temperature slider is a good way to go. And the size, I'm gonna bring it down. Just do normalize intensity so that I can change the size without changing the light intensity. And then if I look through this light, I'm just gonna go back to the camera. This is just an easier way to move your light source around. So it looks like now I can see it doing a little bit of something to the smoke over there. If I start to move it really close, you could definitely see it. Like going too far the other way, it's just reflecting off the ground and doing like a glancing highlight. I'm just gonna try to leave it kind of perpendicular to the camera or going across the frame. Sometimes if you really want to solo the light, you could just make the red channel really bright. If you're positioning it, you just go into the red channel. Looks like I have a lot of other reds in my scene. Sometimes if you're just doing like monochromatic, you can isolate the light source or whatever from it. There's also ways to just solo the light and just like turn that on as well. So maybe I'll turn it off for the road or for the pavement. But generally just looking back at the pure ref, I'm just trying to replicate this kind of idea. It's just happening over at the side of everything. If I just go back to where it was, might even want to go up, stop. You kind of see the contribution just toggling the light on and off. It's just adding a little bit more shape. So I think by volume contribution, making the classic mistake. So that's why it was kind of throwing me. It just wasn't contributing to the volumes in my scene. So something like that is more of what I was thinking, or had in my mind. So just a little bit of interest coming from the side of the screen. I might just rename this. Just call it maybe a fill. Watching the cloud tutorial, the cloud on YouTube. I think where you are using VOPs to create procedural noise without sim using noises, it's great that we can see that in the viewport. Sadly with V-Ray, gotta render it. Even with V-Ray, you should be able to see it in the viewport. Either way, the question is if a plane, spaceship, car with whatever was to pass through it, is it possible to get that in as a starting point for pyrosim with no forces? And let's imagine a volume box with turbulent wind, etc. You're saying just to use that as a starting point of the gonna clone the light and add another light source. So you're talking about I'm not sure what the best way is to do that. Because if you're just activating or simulating portions of it, you might get like creases or seams essentially. So I don't know how much like Yeah, it's definitely possible. It also throws off the particle sourcing that I usually do. You just have to add it as a smoke source, but it's definitely possible. But yeah, it would just be if I go to my other Houdini, like you would just source it as a volume traditionally. So if you have a volume here, just to fill it with something like that, you do the volume VOP. With the noise. So something's going on. And then in a DOP network, instead of this, you just do the volume source. So this would just import it, and instead of this being a continuous activation, you would just want to do this once. So like doing the SF equals 1, or whatever frame you want to have it start simulating on, and then just set that to whatever you want. So that's how you would do it. But you're going to run into more issues, or just have to be pretty creative on like how you're segmenting portions of it from your procedural clouds to your simulated clouds. This is definitely possible. Yeah, it's a pretty tricky thing to pursue, but people have to do it a lot for feature films and stuff. So I'm adding another light source, trying to get something happening from the other side of the screen. Now you can see it hitting there. So I might turn this one down a couple of stops. Might make the light source bigger. So yeah, maybe something like that. These are my main spotlights here that's doing the top down. It's kind of like simulating or doing the same thing as a parking lot, but if I turn that off, then you can see what my warm fill lights are doing here. So without them, we just have the HDRI that's lighting up the vehicle, and then it's internal instrument lights or whatever. So let me do these one at a time. So this is the screen left one that I just added. Just a little bit of something happening, and the screen right. So this is just adding a little bit more shaping to the smoke, and then the main light source. So I have an IES light. Let me maybe turn that down a little bit. Blowing things out. You could as well go cooler with these, just to add a little bit more color variation across the image as well. The headlights, they're on. I just have them pretty dim right now. I might need to go back and make them a bit brighter. So like you could see them here when they sweep across. But I've been just changing the brightness of them. Because originally they just were like way too overexposed in this image, in this render. So I've been just going back and forth. I think I overcompensated with this one. But yeah, they're in there. They're doing something. So yeah, we could go back and go a bit higher with them. Let's take a look at something like this frame right here. And this is the headlights that I have parented. Just lift them one step. So I think that should be okay. I don't want to overpower them. Just in the references and stuff that that I've looked at, they seem to not really light up the fog and stuff too much. I don't want it to be like too just blowing out the entire image, but I think this should be okay for now. Let's just take a look at one more. So they're definitely illuminating stuff somewhat, but yeah, I don't want them completely overpowering stuff. But yeah, I think overall this is starting to be a bit better with the side lights, shaping the smoke and stuff a little bit more. But yeah, I think going back to the wet asphalt shader should help things a little bit. So I'm just gonna save it again. I might let's turn on the environment light for everything. Yeah, there's a little gap right now. So if we go into the asphalt, if I just expand this before the UV projection, I should be able to fill that without it might be, I have the bounce card that might be like casting a shadow, so I think that's what's causing that little triangle. I could try turning it off. So basically that's in some of these, I had this bigger light catcher or whatever. I had it turned off for primary rays, but then it was, I think, casting that shadow. So that's what was reducing that artifact. But I think I don't need it. You're back on this project. Yeah, I'm trying to finish it up. Spent some time on it Sunday. Made some improvements. So yeah, this is kind of where we were starting with today. Did some more work on the body of the car just to try to get some better stuff happening with it. CG Rockstar was providing some more tips as well. So getting the highlights to lie along the shoulder and maybe the A-pillar could improve that even more. Yeah, we've made some progress already. What I did was add some warm lights, kind of like this image here from the sides, just to try to get a little bit more shaping. and then I've turned on the HDRI light for everything. I'm gonna go in and tweak the asphalt shader a little bit. So this is the end result, and then without that HDRI light on. But I'm just turning it on to try to gauge a little bit better what's happening with the asphalt shader. Sometimes as well, if you're really just tweaking one area, you can just go in with this region box. So I was doing the wet dry effect in the shader with this wetness mask. It's a bit of a complex shader. The same issue here that you yourself finds hard to fix. At the start of the smoke sim is kind of mushroom-like. Yeah, I talked about that a little bit earlier. So overall, there's just too much turbulence throughout the simulation, like swirling happening. There's some disturbance artifacts. I talked about briefly like adding some extra source particles that aren't sourcing smoke, but just sourcing velocity to go in around this area and inject just forces moving things around. So that was, it's on my list of things to enhance in terms of the smoke simulation. So I'm just gonna go in here and move this just to my dry asphalt. And this is blending from my base bump to no bump to simulate wetness. It's hopefully going to be dope. It's still, it's a battle. It's been a long push. But yeah, it's definitely small steps of improvement and stuff. So yeah, the displacement, we're not using it. It's not turned on. And then with the bump, what I'm doing here with the blender is just going to no bump by my wetness mask. Whenever it's finished. Yeah, it's a grind, but it will happen. So yeah, that's all it is. You just make small steps. As long as you keep at it, you're always improving and learning, and it's good to do that. So yeah, there were some comments about overall the frequency and stuff like that. So I'm gonna try to address it or fix it up. I think this. Seeing this in the comments, sorry, 2 minutes to make a film? A 2-minute film to make. I mean, it depends. Like, I'm definitely going at a slower speed for myself because I'm like doing the chat and not really working too much. Like, there's other things that I'm working on off stream and with work and stuff like that. So this is like, it's taken, I don't know, just looking at the on-stream time, we probably spent, I don't know, 20 hours on this if I were to accumulate everything. GPU rendering. Yeah, I mean, a 2-minute film to do on stream is a pretty big, could be a big undertaking. I don't know. So I'm just starting with this, doing one shot or one effect, but it's definitely, yeah, it's a battle. So yeah, I think that this asphalt might be too spread out, like too zoomed out. I think I might have taken a look at it. I might not have actually seen the edit. I might have only seen the work in progress of the one rain shot. But yeah, if you, did you post the edit in the Discord? So I'm going to change the frequency. I'm just doing that with this UV project. Could we add rain to the scene? That would be at the very end, perhaps. Right now, I'm just trying to get this part working. But it's possible to perhaps add other ambient stuff. I was thinking as well, just possibly doing a separate rain stream or effect, because that's always an interesting thing to do with particles, where there's always different setups and approaches and stuff like that. But I'm thinking overall, like, my asphalt was too zoomed out. So like just looking at these little portions, I think I want to see more crackly and stuff like that. So all my textures are using the same UV attribute. So I'm also changing the skid marks and the lines on the road. If we wanted to, we could also like decouple it. Let me see what's happened here. So I believe this was at 11. Might have been at 12. Yeah, I think this was at 12. Let me do a region render. And then I'll just do a snapshot. So what I'm going to do, instead of changing that slider there, add the road lines and the skid marks that are being added somewhere. But the general stuff was this asphalt. So I have the asphalt height map, normal map, so I'm actually just going to keep going with the UV attribute, and then if I want to do the other stuff, I'll do it independently. But basically, you have your like albedo, your specular, your roughness, and your bump or height map. And if you just scale them individually in the shader, you either have to like reference link the scales up, or if you do it here, it's a little bit easier because you can globally adjust everything with one slider. So let's just try this and see what kind of difference we get. So I think this is looking a little bit better. I'm also just going to go in and adjust my bump stuff. I don't know if this thing was feeling pretty flat. So just trying to get a little bit more shape into that road or the concrete. I guess, asphalt shader. So if I wanted to, I could go in now and individually tweak the skid marks. So this is the only area that I'm bringing in the skid marks. If we just redo the scale. It's a pretty beast of a shader that I've set up. It's a little bit too complex. I think that we were getting I'm just trying to reline this up so we have something closer to like the width of what his tires actually feel like. Might be something like that. And I'd been offsetting it, like these aren't meant to be coming from his tires, they're more just like existing details in the scene, essentially. So it's like other people had already gone in and driven around and stuff like that. And then all of this stuff here is different road lines. So I just add them together to keep layering them. And if I want to, I could link the scales. This is kind of what I was talking about. If I could either do that with these different areas or control everything globally using the UV attribute. So I'm just gonna link I think some of these I wasn't changing them like independently to get wider or smaller ones. It's always going to be a bit of a mess, I guess, just the way that I've set things up. So maybe something like this is still somewhat interesting. The intention with these lines is just to add a bit of interest as well, like details. They're not meant to be a road or street. It's more of just parking spaces. Or if we look at this, this is like where they're gonna park or something. It's just bits of detail. So you can see that there's kind of simulating this stuff. There's existing marks maybe from other takes or just other days of them driving around, and then just these different bits of parking delineation. We'll go back and we could try going, I don't know if it's a smart idea, but I'm gonna do a snapshot here, and then with this asphalt maybe try going back to turning displacements on. So with the stuff close to camera, like you're only going to get a set amount of detail doing bump mapping, but using this displacement, see what we get. It's a bit of a pain because it takes your renderers longer to to build the scene, to build the subdivision surface, you can get a bit more detail and stuff. Someone was mentioning that there's like one of these is like a shader override. Go back to a clay shader. Or maybe it was wireframe. But basically debug yeah, so if you do clay override for everything, then you can more easily visualize like some of the subdivision. The tessellation. Thank you, Julian. Yeah, so you could do that. It looks like we're not bumping too much. We'll try it a little bit higher. You can start to see it just a little bit more shift in the lighting and stuff. And then there's this problem with the, can you do wireframe at the same time? Or is it? So yeah, it looks like I don't have enough subdivisions. So the one thing is to adjust your range min and range max. You want to get that balanced correctly so that you're not globally shifting everything up or down too much. So this is lining up a little bit better. Yeah, and then it looks like I'm gonna go lower just overall with this output scale. And we want to get more edges. So I think our maximum subdivisions, we could try 8. Let's do another. It's possible I could go optimize the ground plane so that it fits like the camera view a bit better. Now that earlier I was leaving it bigger because I was still like figuring out the shot and everything. But I think I can go in asphalt. This is my camera view. So if I scale this before I change, before I project UVs, I can just affect this without scaling the textures at all, which is pretty nice. I'll just leave this, the bottom of it there. And, whoops. I think I can do something like that, but shift it. All right, we'll try this. We should see more divisions in the wireframe without having to increase like the memory or the load, like this preparation ray tracing hierarchy for meshes. The more subdivisions or the more tessellation like settings and higher settings you use, the longer it will take. It looks like we've pulled out some more details here. Yeah, it looks like overall I've just made that displacement strength still too high. Like these really big stretches or whatever is too much for the displacement. So that's looking a little bit more expected in terms of just like height levels and stuff. Looks like we're lining up better with the bottom of his tires. We go back to the dry shader. So just getting a little bit more shadowing, like self-shadowing, shaping and stuff like that into the asphalt. Starting to get a bit better. It's not perfect. Someone had mentioned this one, I don't know if I still have it, but there's one really good looking like concrete shader that one guy was distributing. I think I found it here. We're not fully like at this really nice macro level. I was thinking about this, but I didn't know for sure like if it came with the other roughness height channels and stuff like that, so I didn't want to switch over to it right away. But definitely getting the ground looking even better would be a definite like way to enhance this scene overall. But we're definitely getting a little bit better with some of this stuff. So what I'll do is go back to the blending now. So switching between wet and dry. I might have to do the same thing with this displacement. That was my idea here with this blender, is that in wet areas we're reducing the bump or reducing the displacement to smooth things over. So I think I can do the same thing with it if I do a displacement blender. Should this be a vector? Maybe we have to do it before the displacement. Let's see what happens here. I might be able to just override that scale directly. If I just do mix, I'm going to take this scale value, cut it, set it to 0, and do this as input 1, and the other setting will be 0, and then we'll blend. We'll try to blend it that way. How did you set up the reflections? I'm not using any reflection or the. So there's a few different things happening, I guess. If you're talking about shader reflections, like all that I've done is use the roughness map. So that came with the shader. There's glossiness and roughness are the same thing. It's just inverted. If we look at the map, this is what it looks like here. So this is what's adjusting the specular response of the asphalt shader. So this is the only map that's plugged in terms of driving or adjusting the reflections. And all this does is basically in certain areas, it says it's either a rougher reflection or a more mirror-like reflection. But yeah, that's all that's going on with the asphalt reflections. I'm not sure if you're asking about other stuff. So with the vehicle reflections, like that's being driven by HDRI. So it's just unlinked from everything else. Thank you for sharing that, CG Rockstar. Yeah, I'll look at that after I finish this stream. So right now I've turned on the HDRI light for everything, just to debug this shader a little bit better. But for the vehicle reflections, that's how I'm setting them up as well, is just using the HDRI light only on the vehicle to set up or add reflections to it. Yeah, so it's just on the asphalt, it's being driven by the texture. So yeah, let's see what's happening here. So with this asphalt, and just do, I think, trying to think of the best way to do that. This, just trying to make a constant scalar. I think if I just do like vector maker, is that, or you have to do color maker? Then I'll just do vector to scalars. So the Redshift RS VOP nodes or whatever, they're a bit like counterintuitive. Sometimes you have to do weird stuff with them. But basically I'm setting the red channel to 1, and I'm just going to override my wetness mask with this. So this is my value. It's originally being driven by a noise, but I'm just going from 0 to 1 to change from wet to dry. So if we reset this, I'm trying to just visualize my wet shaders, my shader in wet mode, and then I'm going to try it in dry mode, just to more easily like troubleshoot things. But I think I want this multiplier set to 1. My idea with this multiplier was that even the wet areas should have a bit of bump. So you leave this at 1, basically it should disable all of the bump and all that stuff. So it should be closer to a perfect mirror. We could still see some blurriness because of the reflections, but this is what I'm saying is like 100% wet right now. And then if we go back to yeah, I think this is looking pretty good. We go back to dry, we just set this to 0. So I could always ease back on my settings to get run a noise map through the roughness or glossiness. Yeah, that might help to give it some like overall low frequency variation. I think what I'm gonna do is go up to my asphalt shader. I think I'm just gonna go a bit lower with the subdivisions, or maybe let's just see how quick that goes. So I'm just trying to speed up the ray tracing hierarchy step. We go back to the wireframe. So this is where it's at. This is where we had been before. I might try this minimum edge length. Maybe try going lower again with that. Let's just refresh it, see what happens. So this is a bit faster. It's still a lot better than where we were before. I think it's okay to use this for right now, just to work more quickly. So yeah, with this wetness, if we go back to 1, go back into wet mode, we could add it was the wireframe. So Julian, I think he's the one who put me onto this. So you just shade things with wireframe mode, and you can see, you can visualize the tessellation amount, or how much of that is happening. So my bump blender to wet right now is perfectly smooth at the end. I just left nothing into it, but I'll try CG Rockstar's advice and go with a noise. Yeah, it's just debugging or quality control or whatever. Just I wasn't using it before, and it's a really good way to. Otherwise, it's very easy to like crash your renderer, like fill up your memory if you're just trying to like brute force a lot of subdivisions, but you're not visualizing like what you're actually getting or whatever. So yeah, this is my wetness in here. So instead of texture, we can do a noise. And just keep going with working with the visualizations. So this, we're just gonna do maybe FBM, not too many octaves, and a large scale. Try something like that. Yeah, so trying to get some just subtle like undulations. So this right now is just way too much. Yeah, I don't know. I've never really gotten redshift to. So now we have some nice. Might be a bit too much. Yeah, I've never had too much trouble with the procedural stuff with redshift, like slowing things down, but it's definitely possible that it could. If you're using too many noise things. But I've never I've never, I don't know. I've never used more than 10 like procedural noises. I've also never really had a big issue. So maybe something like this. You can also just scale it in one direction. Sometimes you get interesting. Yeah, sometimes I'll do that. I think I have a pretty good sense of where things are at right now. But yeah, going black and white is a pretty good way to quickly narrow things down. But yeah, I think this is pretty much doing what I need to. You think we need more subtleness in these octaves? All the all the little sub-pixel details. Let's see what we get with that. Maybe bringing this down even more. So just adding a bit of interest to the wetness, so it's not completely flat. Might be a bit too much. There's bad itchy script. There's a link to the textures on my resources page for the website. You do !resources in the chat. There's a command, or yeah, if you're asking someone else, let's go for that as well. There's the one like CO0 textures or something like that. That's a pretty good free resource. It's just !resources is the command. All right. So this is the wetness. And then if we plug this back in, then we'll be using the noise that we set up to go between the two of them. I think I was also doing some stuff with the tire marks here, but I think I want to switch my process around. So I was basically using these tires to go to change the wetness. I'm gonna try turning that off, and I think instead I'm just gonna have the wetness eliminate the yeah, what I'm thinking is just having the wetness like override the tire marks. I still need to figure this back. It's this layer of snow. I'm gonna try flipping the mask around. So let's take a look at the procedural noise and then remapping this to get wet and dry areas. I think this remapping is a bit off right now. So anywhere that's one or white will be defining wetness, or a puddle, essentially. So maybe expand this stuff out a little bit more. Then my wet, I don't know if it's maybe a little too blurry. This is the color correction that I was doing for the diffuse for the wet area. That red glow. Yeah, I think I have the lights, the geometry lights are still shining inside of it, and I also have some penetration. It's like poking through the reflector. It's a bit of a some stuff I need to fix there. Yeah, I didn't notice it as well because there's also like the caliper or the brake pad or whatever that's red as well, so it kind of gets lost in there. But yeah, the headlights, this car body is from the Arnold rendering downloads page or whatever, their support page. So that's why it's just a bit flimsy. I think it's not. There's a car link that I added to my resources page where you can get some really nice high quality models. So I saw that Isaac had pointed that out. Get his links. So on Isaac's stream, he pointed the website out. I think it's called Wire Wheels Club. I should have gone with these. It looks like these are pretty nice, better modeled vehicles. So I would have been able to get some better lighting or surface details maybe with that stuff. But yeah, it's amazing that all this stuff is, even the interiors and stuff are pretty well modeled out. So it's hard to believe that this stuff is completely free. Or it looks like at least it's supported through Patreon and the usual donation models. The trash. Yeah, Turbo Squid is now the bottom of the trash heap for free models. Some of it's quite old too, like you don't pay attention, you download something from like 1997. So I'm gonna try going back to just having the HDRI light up the vehicle and taking a look how the scene looks with it this way. Yeah, there's some that you can find scouring around as well that are pretty nice. So I think this is feeling a little bit better. One thing I might do is go back and adjust my wetness. Mask. Just move it around, like the noise generation, to get something a little bit better composed to the camera. I'm just going to turn off the tessellation stuff, displacement settings to work more interactively with this. So let's see what this one could look like. I don't know if I want maybe remap this stuff a little bit. This one could be nice. I don't know if I don't know if we want the area right under his tire to be wet though. This doesn't make as much sense to have smoke coming from that area, like friction, I don't know. I don't really use substance. Yeah, I've done some skid marks. We did that with Houdini. But yeah, I'm trying to keep everything mostly within Houdini, or pulling the textures from the free resource websites. The Substance is really powerful in Substance Painter as well for texture authoring and all that stuff, but I don't know it well enough, and I don't know how much. Like, I'm not enough of a generalist to have to use it too much. So yeah, I think with the composition, this would be a little bit more interesting. We could turn the, maybe I'll wait a little bit to turn on tessellation and displacement again, but what I'll do now is maybe move the dome light around. We'll see if we can get the shoulder kick looking a little bit better. Our automotive lighting in-chat expert, CG Rockstar, had the good advice that you want these highlights to lay or show off the shoulder, this area of the vehicle. So I'm trying to just rotate my HDRI light to spin it to get it riding along that curve or the edge a little bit better. I don't know if this... It felt like it might not have been updating or something. Right? Ah. This is coming from another light source. So it might be these fill. Yes. So, looks like it's my screen left fill light now. I might go and just use it to try to line it up better. So I don't know, because this thing's modeled a little bit wonky. Looks like I was getting like a weird highlight at the door. Use a gradient. That's a good idea. Yeah, I have some textures. Trying to think what the best way is to do it. So you can use the ramps with the RS lights. Top to bottom, white to black. Yeah, it's a bit too contrasty. It's a bit too odd seeing all that stuff, I think, right? Like the edges of the lights or the geometry of the light too much. Yeah, it will look too flickery. So, this is a bit... It's a bit sloppy, I feel like, but I might go in and do it. So sometimes what I'll do is allow editing of contents, and then in the light shader for redshift, you could use a ramp and plug it into here. So we'll use the UV coordinates, different light passes, which means comp work. So try it here. I'll just put some color into this maybe to visualize it. But basically we have a rectangle light, so it automatically has UV coordinates that go across it. We're doing vertical, and it also has horizontal. So maybe if I just visualize like red or green to, what are we calling this? Magenta, pink, fuchsia. You could see we're visualizing the ramp across the light. So we should be able to use this to bring it closer to the car. So yeah, it might be distorting it too much. So yeah, it looks like now we're seeing the full light being reflected a bit better. So I think we want it to fall off to black like that and start pretty bright, and then you're saying green to black. You want to dial it in with a color. So that we're doing the center point. Okay, yeah, so we'll start white. So you think something close to this? It's pretty nice, right? Thicker white at the shoulder line. Don't go out, just clip out to white. Something like that. Beamin'. Luxury. Just to show off the design, the curves of the car. The standard studio's a bit something like that. You came back. Flash ATO. Not too thick. Something like that. It's pretty cool. What do you think? Yeah, I think like being at night and stuff like that, being a thin one, the geometry of this one might also be a bit harder. But yeah, I guess we'll see what it looks like with this. Just a little thicker. Yeah, I think it's going to be hard to tell in render. It might be a bit look like an artifact or something. But yeah, that's definitely looking better. Then I'm going to turn on the HDRI light. Yeah, now it registers a lot better. So I'm going to turn off my fail lights, and now I'm just going to work with the HDRI that's giving me some more reflections. So these ones, this is just to help like make the body and stuff a bit more readable as well. Zoom out. So maybe just some nonsense in the back. If we want people's eyes to kind of be looking in this area, I think, with that's where the smoke and everything's gonna come from. I don't know if I can tweak the thickness of these that well, because it's like these are baked into the HDRI, but like going flatter with the gamma and then just changing the intensity was the only real control is that. This is feeling pretty magnificent. But yeah, let's see if that's fighting too much with the electric. Oh, you think that one should be a bit towards a bit thicker, you were saying? So I think this HDRI is a bit too bright. Yeah, this is the full. Yeah, it does look a bit different being zoomed in and zoomed out. But yeah, I think this. I don't know if it's got a little bit too thick. Maybe just a bit thinner. CCal25, how's it going? Yo. So yeah, I think this is more light intensity. Get it booming. So maybe I went up two stops, maybe just go up one stop. Yeah, I think I'm gonna take a look with this when I render it and see how it plays in motion, but I think it's definitely a pretty big improvement. This is Houdini. Pulling tricks out like Houdini. Yeah, so then this contrast as well, maybe. I think it was feeling pretty good. Yeah, I think this is where it is feeling pretty good. Add one, you're saying, right, to have it right here, or yellow body next to the black parts, like a vertical line. Once the car rotates, or you're talking about the C pillar? C pillar. Yeah, so what I've done, flash ATO with the light. So with the RS lights, you can unlock them, or you could I think if I wanted to, I could specify a different shader path, like with a material net or shop net outside of here. But what I usually do is unlock the redshift light, and then if you go into the light shader, instead of having it enable or disable a texture map, you could plug a ramp into it, and then you can make a gradient, or you could plug whatever you want. Like you do a noise, you could do a ton of different stuff, but to add a ramp to my light, this is usually the quickest way to do it. It's a bit of a hack, but yeah. You're talking about the rear bumper taillight boot area. Something riding along the edge. Boom. Yeah, if you screenshot it and add it to the, put it in the Discord, or if you're able to link it here, okay, here it is. Something riding along the edge here is what you're saying? Oh, I see the red mark now. That very back angle. Cool, yeah, we could try to punch that in. So I'll just hold Alt and make a copy of this light. And then if we jump into it, so we're punching it in right there. Yeah, so I have to rotate the UVs. What I'll do for right now is just disconnect it. But yeah, it's gonna have to be horizontal. I'll just disconnect it to line the geometry up. We've got Steve's calling out a yeet. Oh no, I tried to mod him. Whoops. There it is. Alright. So let's play around with the, I think we want it to be not very long and a little bit taller. The full length of the carbon fiber, like the headlight encasing. On the other side. Like this? This area that I moved. Taller? This thing's pretty tall. what do you think? We went too tall? It might be too tall, but not wide enough. Maybe it just needs to be closer. Just physically put the light right up to the car. Someone had made something once that's like, you could click on the geometry and it would like figure out the reflection with Python and make a light for you. Just to get the angle and then pull it back. That's it, you think? So try putting the ramp back in. So you think the gradient riding this way? Too thick. Thinner like that, you think? It's pretty good. Feels a little more like car paint. Yeah, I think it was pretty bad before, just the lighting and even the shader might need a little bit more work. So yeah, we could do it full frame. Yeah, and if we want to, we could do another snapshot and turn it off. Yeah, it's burning out because it's just the hotspot and stuff. But this should even be nice for the tire smoke and stuff. So yeah, we can move it. Let me just gonna turn off the other stuff for a second. No, it's okay to get some help. So yeah, I might need to make it a bit bigger as I pull it back. What the hell happened here? It's off? Didn't I turn it on? I grabbed everything? Which one was on? It was just the spotlight. Yeah, I did. I guess I did grab them all. All right. I turned our brains back on. Yeah, so you can see it there. And you might have to go bigger. And keep going back with it a little bit more. So what I might want to do is either solo this for the vehicle or just turn the volume contribution down. So that it's not super obvious. It's a bit back to this GIF we were looking at with all the different layers and stuff like that. So we'll zoom out. Might even make it a bit wider. Try something. Might have been a bit too much. All right. I'm gonna leave it like that for a little bit, and so yeah, we could turn everything else back on. This fog, I don't know if it's, maybe these other lights are like, this fog is feeling a bit off, the environment fog. So I did link it to this noise, and then I stretched it out. So it might just be like too stretched out. It was just feeling like too many localized too many individual kind of shafts or whatever. I might play around with the scattering. And just turn it off a little bit, so it's not as noticeable with the ambient kind of like fog or volume stuff. Yeah, everything's a bit it's a bit more reflective, I guess, with the Bentley. I think they were working more with the gradient ramps maybe in those extra lights. It's possible as well, it's just a like it might just be a exposure issue. So could drop this one down a stop. So the shoulder one and the taillight one, move those down a stop. And let's turn this. The environment light is adding, I think, a bit of that neon like vibe to it, but I wasn't super disappointed with it. I don't know, it's kind of grabs your attention a little bit, but I think as well, just with the Lamborghini, the HRI should be still contributing diffuse. You think it helps to turn off diffuse? Yeah, it does, I think, help a little bit. So I'm just looking at the temperature of this. All right, let's take a look at another frame. I'm gonna go back to the smoke and just visualize this in the viewport. Go back to the smooth shaded. So let's try something before the vehicle is completely blocked again. Something like that, maybe. Pretty sexy. What do you think? Made things a bit more dramatic. This is Dr. Disrespect's Lamborghini. But yeah, I think even that shoulder light is still helping a bit, and then I think the boot, the rear light is pretty nice as it rides along the back. Our wetness shaders is definitely feeling a bit better. Let's do a snapshot of this and reactivate our displacement. See how much of a quality enhancement we get from that. I'm gonna get some water. I have not tried the car in different colors. I was thinking like just like design wise, just having my colors being like black for the asphalt, yellow and white is pretty interesting. One thing I did mention was like possibly having some other vehicles like nearby if this is a parking lot or a dealership or a test commercial shoot or something. We've already done the work of like shading, like doing material assignments and shading for this, and then just doing different instances or different references of the same vehicle but with different color options. It could be like a efficient, cheap way to do that, but yeah, I could always try doing different color options as well. Like even, I don't know, white or black could be pretty cool. I'm just trying to think like very minimal, very like graphic. I want just everything to be like eye-catching, I guess, as possible. But yeah, we can see here just the little bits of like detail. Whoops. So there's that still a little bit of like an elevation shift, but I think the bump or the actual like physical displacement helps just some extra details in the yeah, they did a good job with the shoulder here. So it looks like this might be a tube, like a fluorescent light or something. But yeah, and then these white lines on the floor, on the ground, are doing a good job as well to like define the bottom edge. They did a really good. Good shot design on them. Whoever planned this did a good job thinking about all that stuff. Yeah, so what I was gonna do was go back to the asphalt and increase some of this divisions. Maybe just increase the quality overall a little bit more. And on my output shader, just going to reduce this error threshold. Trying to think about. So I'm going to do one more thing before I do like a final test render and finish stuff up. There was the one thing I mentioned at the start of the stream is all this noise that happens in the in the smoke from the burnout. Because our tail light is a mesh light or geometry light. Let me just turn off displacements again to dial this in. Get rid of some of these. All right. So all of this noise that you see right here. It's the Rona. So all this noise that you see right here is from the geometry light. So I'm gonna turn off the other lights in the scene and just solo this out for a little bit. So we'll get rid of that. The HDRI and the overhead lights. So this is that source, the tail lights right here. You can see the headlights as well, but what these lights are doing everywhere else is causing a bit of a problem. If you put area light shape circular just outside the lights invisible, that should fix the problem. Invisible to render. Yeah, so this is my plan. I'm gonna turn off volume contribution for those. And so this volume now should just be the reflection that's getting lit up by it. Let's take another look just to see. I could do a localized render. I had tried turning the volume samples up super high. It might also be like a transparency thing. Let's try turning the visibility of them off. So they're already going through the transparent object, which I think is also causing the noise as well. Like they're nested inside of the taillight plastic or tinted window or whatever we're calling that. So yeah, my plan was for the volume contribution to have another light nearby that would be doing that. Let's see, like you could, I don't know if this, do people usually increase samples here? But yeah, if we just turn up the main samples, looks like we're still getting like a good amount of speckliness. Might just be that they're a bit over bright. Maybe try making them down one stop. Internet is getting worse and worse. Is the throttling? It's possible sometimes with the stream. If you refresh your Twitch user interface or just the Twitch channel, that might fix some of the lag issues or like get you caught up a little bit. But yeah, I'm thinking maybe making these like less intense. That should help the noise being as noticeable. And then, yeah, doing a circular light from the tail light. So what we had done with the headlights, we can reuse that. So just positioning points nearby. Right here, this is going to be our light geometry. You're in the middle of... You're in a fault line? Oh my. You're in an island off of Nicaragua? What is it? Is it just satellite to give you internet? Where there's lines going through the bottom of the ocean? This is yeah, if it's just like satellite, it might be a pretty slow internet. Surprised you found the channel from there. It's like a cool place to be. So yeah, I think this will be light geometry, and then I'm gonna output another position. So what was going on with these? I was gonna do connectivity. So the connectivity just assigns class, a unique class for each 3D connectivity geometry. Gonna just move, everyone's gonna move there and you'll have a Houdini compound on that island. So this connectivity, we'll just do an attribute, and then that lets us do a for each. I guess you could do connected piece, and then this is like doing everything that I just set up, just with the tab menu. But yeah, now if I just do add, let me think, the connectivity trick again. So yeah, I'm just trying to extract you to have everyone visiting you day by day. I might do this a bit differently, I'm thinking. All right. You don't have any roads? All right. It looked like there's an airport there. It looked pretty fancy. So I'm gonna do this a different way. I think what I'm gonna do is just make a time shift to do like a static frame of these rear lights. Delete it. And I think if I just grab one point right there, These are just going to be like extra things, so I'm not too careful about them lining up. So I'll just use a blast. So we have one point there on the side, and get one more on the other side. So if we look, we can merge these. The 2 points together. So we have them kind of near the centers of those lights, and can peek. This was what I was doing to just push them along the normals. They don't have any normals, but if I generate it, just assign it to the points. Now we'll have normal information. You can visualize it there. And when I peek it, I don't want to recompute normals. So now we can just move them. And just turn everything back on. It looks like I was pushing them the wrong way. So something like that would be okay. And I don't think I need, maybe I'll add it just in case, but what this node was doing was just converting the normal direction to a 360-degree rotation value. So if you look at the spreadsheet, usually normal is like it's a vector that's just a direction, like 0, 1, 0 for up, but then with a light, the transforms at object level, you want those to be in degrees. So like 90 degrees would be flipping from like this way to up. So that's what this is converting from, like the direction up vector to your direction in degrees. We'll just do vector to degree format. So now we have light position for the 2 taillights and the rotation values that are in degrees. I think I can just copy one of these that I was using for the headlight. So if I switch this over to be a taillight, just fix this expression up. This one, it looks like it didn't get it. So I was naming okay, so this has a 1 at the end of it. Now we have our light getting pulled in properly. Yeah, and I think I need to switch this tail light. And then I can name it 0. Might have peaked too far. So we have our 2 right there. Maybe something like that is close enough. And Then I can just switch these. I might just do a point light for right now. And they're just way too bright. I'm just gonna set one of them up before I copy them. And then these should be very close to red. I could copy the other one back. So let's see what happens with it. So now we're still getting noise, I think, from the mesh light ones. But with this, might be from them as well. But it should be a lot quicker for the renderer to resolve that noise. What might be best is maybe even just to switch to like a emissive texture that's not illuminating other stuff in the scene. Project looking so much better. Gotta go, computer rendering. Yeah, it's doing rendering on my end has been turning stuff into an oven as well. But yeah, you could see even doing the bucket render, we're very quickly fixing that noise. So I think just this optimization using point lights to fake the tail light illumination is more optimized. What I can do with this one for now, I think, is turn this on. Where did it go? Refresh. Turn them back on, and then under objects maybe, if I just disable the light, now it's basically behaving like a emissive. It's only maybe turn it visible as well. So it's not illuminating stuff, it's just showing up for primary rays or the camera rays, and then these point lights are faking the illumination that they would be providing. So we should be able to get quicker renders or just less noise more quickly this way. The point lights borked the reflection. What do you think? This part right here. These taillights, I might want them a bit brighter. You think we need to turn them off for reflections? Disable the specular contribution. That's a good idea. What do you think? It's a bit better? Look at that. We even got our lens flare back. Yeah, so now it's a bit better. We can even grab both of these if we want and control. Boost it if we really want more interesting smoke rendering or whatever. So yeah, let's get everything else back. And the overhead. And then the HDRI. All right, so we'll do the displacement map back on, and then just reduce this error threshold to something just a little bit below 0.01. So for stills, if I'm going for like trying to do a final production quality or whatever, just slightly below 0.01 should be pretty good. So yeah, this is where we were starting today. hopefully this, I think the road looks a bit better. Like the puddles feel a little bit more real. Starting to add some better shaping in the reflections of the vehicle. I think I still need to take a look at the car shader. Oh, CG Rockstar had some helpful tips, so I might need to spend some time dialing those, doing the Bentley workflow or whatever, just figuring out these accent lights, get those really dialed in before it looks professional. But overall, I think it's more slow progress, slow push. Yeah, I think even this, so the scale of this concrete stuff or asphalt is a bit better as well. And then you have that little distortions or whatever in the puddle. Jabram, it's amazing. Hopefully, I'm kind of stumbling through it. I've definitely learned a lot just from you guys giving me the little tips and tricks and stuff like that. But yeah, so that we still have some outstanding tweaks and notes and stuff for the smoke simulation, the grid artifacts, the turbulence shapes and stuff like that. But yeah, overall, I think things are heading in a better direction. It's looking better, yeah. Still needs, there's other things that still need work and stuff like that, but yeah, definitely heading in a better direction. Need to add a license plate, right? Goblando Crindler. This is doing a slow push here, but yeah, it's just chopping away at this a little bit on just put Coons on the license plate, the vanity plate. So yeah, for these renders, the Coon Zone. For these renders, I think it was taking me like 30 seconds per frame. So I had turned the settings down quite a bit. I was getting a lot of noise and stuff everywhere. But yeah, just to get previews and stuff, that's why my noise setting here was originally at like 0.05. But just so you guys could get a look at what something closer to final looks like and just see all the road is definitely looking a lot better. I don't know about this. Maybe I need to do another pass for the skid mark stuff. But definitely making progress. So yeah, gonna be it for today. We'll be back Friday, Cool Zone Friday. Hopefully this weather cools down a little bit. Good work, not only me, you guys contributed quite a bit. And yeah, I'm looking forward to going through some of the advice and stuff you gave me and push it even a little bit more. But yeah, it's a team effort. Hopefully everyone's learning and pulling out some tricks. A lot of this lighting stuff I'm pretty new at, and Mr. Viewer. Yeah, like the wireframe debugging displacements, like a lot of that stuff is I didn't know about it before this stream, so it's always good to get the Chad advice from the chat. Yeah, so we'll be back Friday, same time. Cool Zone, making some abstract stuff. Instagram art playing around. Thanks for everyone's contributions today and forever. All right, take it easy.